Hello, everybody. This is a presentation about the changes in the gait development and process from different stages in life, such as like age groups as the early childhood, into adulthood, and then into older adulthood. In this presentation, we're going to go over the principles that are related to each stage of the development. We're going to identify some of the gait abnormalities that affect these different age groups, as well as some of the constraints that these age groups have with their gait development process. I apologize ahead of time. I get kind of nervous doing these sorts of assignments, so please try to stick with me if you can. So starting off with early development and the early childhood gait process, we're going to go over some of the not the milestones, excuse me, but we're going to go over some of the mechanisms of which how they start their learning process of the gait development and how they work their way through it, and then what the changes are from early childhood into childhood. So, starting with the base of support with the early childhood development of gait, it's in this video and most commonly with toddlers when they're first starting out. Their arm position is held in the high position, which is used for support. It's the use for lateral support, and as they become a more proficient walker, the arms will start coming down more and maybe to a mid stance and then down to their sides. It isn't until about 13, 14 months, 15 months when they start utilizing a little bit of arm swing. Might not be coordinated, might not be oppositional, but they start doing a little bit of arm swing. And then by around the age of 4, they become pretty much skilled walkers, according to our text. Um, the stride length that is presented with these early childhood gait processes is these children usually are walking flat-footed. They have short steps, and each step is usually independent of one another. As it comes to arm swing, in this video, the early childhood gait process, there is no arm swing. The arms are held in the high position, which is to maintain balance, which is usually the most important goal for children in this stage of development is just maintaining balance. While they're maintaining balance, their muscles are gaining strength and they're gaining coordination as well. When it comes to the initial contact and loading response, once again, these are performed flat-footed. And as the girl in this video, she begins with the initial contact with standing on her tiptoes to generate force into starting the walk. Kind of like a lean forward to start walking. Her mid stance, it's stage you can see is that it's flexion of the knee, where the adult has proficient flexion during this portion of the gait process. You can see that she is still just barely learning how to kind of bend the knees instead of just running straight legged. The terminal stance has little to no extension of the knee in the toddler, whereas the adult size has the double knee lock, where you kind of see the extension of the lower leg as well as extension of the ankles, and they're not flat-footed and short-stepped like these younger, early childhoods are. In the pre-swing and initial swing, or excuse me, you just went over that. The terminal swing, toddler has a much shorter terminal swing and utilizes far less single support because each step is independent of itself. It's one step, next leg catches up. One step, next leg catches up. So their gait process is much different from the next childhood process, which is the next slide that we're going to go over. So the major changes that occur from early childhood into childhood are laid out in our textbook pretty cut and dry. And what they say is that children often achieve, like we said, basic walking skills by the age of about 4. Um, and then any changes in the gait patterns after this point, it actually becomes pretty hard to distinguish to any untrained eye. So I guess that would kind of include me right at this point because I wouldn't say I'm trained, but hopefully after a few more of these projects, I'll start having a better understanding of or a better recognition of the different gait patterns and be able to see it out in the real world. So the theories and principles of some early childhood gait. So the major principles regarding early childhood gait is the child's major goals to maintain balance, like we went over said earlier, and it's also the balance is what gives them the necessary tools to obtain skillful patterns. The common gait, one common gait or abnormality that can be seen in early childhood is Down syndrome. This is a condition that affects child's chromosomes and can cause developmental delays. Due to these abnormal chromosomes, can cause things such as muscular defects or neurological defects, all of which can cause conduction delay of nerve impulses and cause slower reflex times. And other constricting type conditions with Down syndrome. Constraints in early childhood. Um, Children at this age rely much more on visual perception than older adults do. This is explained because as we get older, not only do we have the more proficient walking skills, do we have more developed muscles, we have more say neurocognition, but how um, so and also mainly we have more experience, so we're able to rely on our experience as we're walking, whereas children at this age pretty much solely rely on their visual perception, and any any problem with their visual perception is going to excuse me, I'm sorry. Any problem with their visual perception is going to cause problems with their refractive capabilities, and a child that relies or almost solely on visual perception is this is going to cause this is just going to be a constraint in his development or her development in the gait process and becoming a skilled walker. So it could just cause delays. It could cause maybe like long-term delays, depending on how severe the visual impairment is. So when we go into just regular childhood, adolescence, the noticeable changes from early childhood into the adolescence. We'll start with the base of support. The base of support gets raised up, it's higher. The legs are held closer together, which gives them more range of motion and mobility, able to take longer strides because now they have better coordination, more muscle strength, longer legs. They're able to utilize trunk rotation, oppositional arm swing, leg extension, ankle extension, etc. So when it comes to the base of support, pretty much this is where all the this is where all of the changes are noticeable. As we went over just like the stride length, arm swing, the initial contact, the skilled walker now spends far less time in double leg support. Um, Due to the improved muscle mass and strength. The mid stance, now they're utilizing the heel toe strike, the double knee lockout, and the child becomes more proficient in his or her gait pattern developments. The terminal stance swing is longer, causing a longer single leg support stage, as well as improved leg extension and coordination using the oppositional arm swing in synchronization with the legs, causing a more efficient way or a more efficient gait pattern. The pre-swing and initial swing are uniformly conducted, skilled hip rotation, and oppositional arm swing, whereas and also the late and mid-swing, terminal swing does not remain in the double leg support stage as long as the individual is still in the early development of the gait process. So the major changes in muscle strength, balance, size, proprioception, and experience are all factors that help the child develop to become a skilled walker. In our text, the major changes from early childhood walking to proficient childhood walking were explained as absolute stride length increases, reflecting greater application of force and greater leg extension for push off. Also, children grow, increase length, contributes to longer stride. All this, everything that we went over in the beginning was just pretty much just reaffirmed here by our text. Planting the foot flat on the ground changes the heel then to a forefoot pattern, which results in an increased range of motion as well as the higher base of support. Let's see where we are. So common gait abnormalities in each childhood. A common gait abnormality that can be seen in age is muscular dystrophy in these children. There's a few different types of muscular dystrophy, but it does start affecting children around this age. You can start to see the noticeable defects. And what muscular dystrophy is a deterioration of the myelin sheaths around the nerves, which causes conduction delays between the nerve impulses, the efferent, the afferent impulses, which comes from our proprioception, sends a signal to our brain, and then our brain comprehends it and sends it back down for us to make an appropriate movement. Common constraints with early childhood can be complacency. It's explained in our book that some children tend to not get enough exercise because there's this theory out there that children will just get enough exercise just by being children, running around and playing, and apparently that's not true. Another common constraint can be attributed to children not maintaining flexibility. Our book talks about how sometimes children will concentrate on strength and endurance and completely forget about flexibility unless you're involved in certain sports such as where flexibility is required, such as maybe kung fu, gymnastics, or something like that. As we move into adulthood, like I said, seeing any sort of changes in the gait pattern becomes pretty difficult because at this time we're pretty much all skilled walkers now, and we have the experience, and we don't have to rely solely on our visual perception. Theories is explained that our text is any kind of changes in gait process at this time in adulthood usually comes from what quoting the book is a recalibration of the environment and tasks based on the individual. So pretty much changes in gait at this point is just going to be attributed to the individual solely, and it's not a common incidence for each. Um, Common gait abnormalities for adulthood can generate from certain individuals constraints such as obesity or traumatic injuries with lasting effects such as a limp or fused vertebrae, fractured bones, things of that nature. Common constraints of adulthood, as noted earlier, are regulated by individuals and cannot be related to the group as a whole. Because the constraints at this age, we are already proficient walkers. Anything that's going to change our gait process is going to be pretty much a environmental source or an internal source from ourselves. And as we get into the older adulthood, this is kind of when our bodies kind of start reverting back to when we were in the early childhood stages. This kind of start losing our muscle strength, our muscle mass, our flexibility. Cells start to degenerate, and as you can tell in the gait patterns, it's explained that the base of support starts to go back down. Knees start to flex. You don't have any more. I mean, the arms still stay at the sides and they're able to swing, but other things may become necessary, such as walkers or canes, a third leg of support to keep the patient in the upright or patient, excuse me, but to keep the person in the upright position. Some of the theories and principles for older adulthood gait are that it's like I said, it's the reversion back to early childhood gait symptoms. From the personal physical activities of the individual, older adults who maintain a healthy exercise regimen usually maintain skillful walking patterns for much longer than those who adapt to sedentary lifestyles. Common gait abnormalities in the older adulthood I see very often is certain spinal deformities such as scoliosis, kyphosis, lordosis, all of which are abnormalities of the spine. Um, all of which are abnormalities of the spine which cause disruption in the gait process, such as like if you think about a hunchback, you can't take very big steps because you're already bending over your base of support, your center of gravity. So if you're leaning over your center of gravity, it's harder to walk. Some of the constraints that come along with the older adulthood gait patterns includes degenerative disc disorder, such as arthritis, impaired vision. It's explained in our book that sometimes older people are afraid to walk. They're afraid to fall down because A fall for a younger adult as you get up, no big deal. A fall for somebody over the age of 60 or 70 that's on certain medications could be the difference between life and death. So that is one major constraint that affects the older age population, as well as vision. Just like when they were younger, now the vision is more about not being able to see. Even though as adults we don't rely on vision as much as we did as children, we still need to be able to see to know where we're going. Well, that was my presentation on the gait process from the early childhood to the older adulthood. I know it's just a brief rundown. Hopefully, you have time to actually read into some of the notes that I put in there because I think they're just a little bit more detailed than I was actually able to say. Thank you for taking the time, and I really enjoyed taking this class and doing this presentation. I hope you have a great week, and God bless.